Something is crossing our solar system right now. Something that does not belong here. Something that came from the dark between the stars, traveling at speeds that defy easy comprehension, following a path so precise and so strange that one of the most credentialed astrophysicists on the planet has spent months writing paper after paper, refusing to rule out the possibility that it was built, not born. And here is where it gets even more unsettling. When scientists pointed one of the most powerful radio telescopes on Earth directly at this object and listened for signals, they found 9. 9 anomalous events, 9 detections that passed their filters, 9 things that made the researchers pause before they could determine what exactly they were looking at. Stay with me, because what follows is not conspiracy theory, not science fiction, and not breathless YouTube speculation. Every single detail I'm about to give you is documented in peer-reviewed papers, NASA press releases, ESA mission reports, and published research from institutions including Harvard University, the University of Michigan, ALMA Observatory, the James Webb Space Telescope team, and more. This is one of the most scientifically significant events in human history, and most people on this planet still have no suns, do not often wander in. The gravitational geometry of interstellar space is vast and empty, and for most of human history we had never confirmed detecting a single object that came from beyond our sun's domain. We suspected they existed. We theorized they must pass through occasionally, but we had never caught one. Then in 2017 we caught Oumuamua, a thin, flat, strangely shaped object that tumbled through our solar system at hyperbolic speed and accelerated as it left. Not due to gravity, but due to something else. Something that produced no detectable outgassing. Something that behaved unlike any comet or asteroid ever observed. Scientists are still debating what it was. Then, in 2019, we caught 2I Borisov, a second interstellar visitor, this time clearly a comet, more familiar in behavior, less controversial. And then, on July 1st, 2025, a ground-based telescope in Chile called the Asteroid Terrestrial Impact Last Alert System, ATLAS, detected a third, a small, fast, faint speck moving across the field of stars in a way that immediately told the astronomers watching, this did not come from here. They called it 3I Atlas, the third identified interstellar object in human history. And from the moment it was confirmed, it did not behave the way a simple comet is supposed to behave. When 3I Atlas was first detected on July 1st, 2025, it was already traveling at approximately 137,000 miles per hour, roughly 221,000 kilometers per hour. That is the speed of something that was not captured by our sun's gravity. It was passing through, and nothing in our solar system's gravitational pull was going to stop it. By the time it reached its closest point to the sun, its perihelion, it had accelerated to roughly 153,000 miles per hour as the sun's gravity temporarily increased its velocity before releasing it. Then it exited our solar system and began its journey back into interstellar space, now beyond Jupiter, still moving, still heading for the infinite dark between the stars. The size estimates from the Hubble Space Telescope, which observed it on August 20th, 2025, placed its nucleus somewhere between 1,400 feet, roughly 440 meters, at the smallest, and 3.5 miles, about 5.6 kilometers, at the largest. So we are talking about something that could be as wide as a small mountain range, or could be comparable in diameter to a modest city. And it came from somewhere else. From another star system shaped by physics and chemistry we have never directly examined, carrying within it the molecular fingerprints of a world we may never visit. But the story is not really about the size or the speed. The story is about what 3I Atlas did, about how it behaved, about the things it showed us that do not fit neatly into the category of a simple interstellar comet passing harmlessly through. And nobody has cataloged those things more obsessively, more publicly, or more controversially than a Harvard astrophysicist named Avi Loeb. Avi Loeb is not a fringe figure. He is a former chair of the Harvard Astronomy Department. He is the founding director of the Black Hole Initiative. He has published hundreds of peer-reviewed papers and written multiple books. And for the better part of a year, he has been publishing a meticulous, numbered list of what he calls anomalies, bizarre properties, of 3I Atlas that do not fit standard cometary behavior. By the time 3I Atlas began its exit from our solar system in early 2026, that list had grown to 22 separate documented anomalies. Not vague feelings, not impressions. 22 specific, quantifiable, published scientific observations that collectively strain conventional explanation. Let me walk you through the ones that stopped the astronomical community in its tracks. The first anomaly that drew serious attention was the trajectory. 3I Atlas did not enter our solar system the way a random interstellar object would be expected to enter it. Its path brought it within close proximity of 3 of the most significant gravitational bodies in our solar system: Venus, Mars, and Jupiter. In a sequence that follows a path close to the ecliptic plane, the flat disk where our planets orbit the Sun. The object's orbit sits within just 5 degrees of that plane. Astronomers calculated the statistical probability of a random interstellar object, following such a precise ecliptic-aligned path past multiple planets of our solar system in sequence. And that probability is extraordinarily small, less than half of 1%. Loeb described this path as resembling a deliberate tour of our planetary system rather than random hyperbolic motion. Now, the scientific mainstream offers natural explanations for this. Interstellar objects can be gravitationally shaped by the stellar environments they pass through over billions of years. An ecliptic-aligned trajectory is unusual but not physically impossible. These are valid points, but combined with everything else, combined with the 21 other anomalies, this trajectory stopped being easy to dismiss. The second major anomaly was something called non-gravitational acceleration. As 3I Atlas approached the Sun and then retreated from it, it exhibited acceleration that was not caused by gravity. This happens with normal comets too. When ice on the surface is heated by sunlight and vaporizes, it produces jets of gas that can push the comet like a thruster. So non-gravitational acceleration in itself is not alarming. What was alarming was the nature of the jets producing it in 3I Atlas. The Hubble Space Telescope captured images of the object in late July 2025 showing what appeared to be a sunward anti-tail, a structure pointing directly toward the Sun in the direction opposite of where solar wind and radiation pressure push cometary material. Normal anti-tails form as an optical illusion of perspective when Earth lines up with the comet's orbital plane. But analysis of 3I Atlas's anti-tail showed it was not a perspective effect. It was real. It was a physical structure extending toward the Sun, something no known solar system comet had ever been observed to produce before. The jet producing that anti-tail was also something extraordinary. The Hubble analysis suggested the sunward jet was approximately 10 times longer than it was wide, a highly collimated narrow beam. For comparison, cometary jets from natural comets tend to be diffuse and wide, not tightly focused. Loeb noted that for a technological object, a collimated beam of particles in the sun-facing direction could theoretically serve a purpose, blocking the solar wind, which travels at roughly 500 kilometers per second, from impacting and eroding a surface. The dust veil surrounding 3I Atlas, observed independently, was also of just the right optical thickness to shield a surface from direct sunlight. If you were designing a spacecraft that needed to survive close solar passage, these are features you would engineer into it. Then there was the chemistry. When astronomers examined the gas emissions surrounding 3I Atlas before its perihelion, they found something deeply unusual. The coma, the cloud of gas around the nucleus, contained far more nickel than iron. Specifically, a nickel to cyanide ratio that was orders of magnitude larger than what is seen in thousands of known comets, including the previous interstellar visitor, 2I Borisov. This matters because nickel overabundance relative to iron is a characteristic of industrially produced nickel alloys, the kinds of materials manufactured specifically for aerospace applications. Interestingly, after perihelion, iron was then detected in the emissions. Loeb categorized this chemical fingerprint as a potential technosignature, meaning a potential sign of manufactured materials. The mainstream response is that unusual chemical compositions can arise naturally depending on the object's formation environment. But this particular ratio had never been seen in any other known comet from our solar system or beyond it. After perihelion, the ALMA Observatory, the Atacama Large Millimeter or Submillimeter Array in Chile, and a team led by the University of Michigan added another layer to the chemical mystery. Their research, published in Nature Astronomy on April 24, 2026, revealed that 3I Atlas contains at least 30 times the proportion of semi-heavy water, technically called deuterated water, or HDO, found in any comet from our own solar system. Deuterium is a heavier form of hydrogen that forms preferentially in extremely cold environments. The ALMA team's interpretation was that 3I Atlas formed in conditions far colder than our own solar system, a genuinely alien birthplace, somewhere in the outer reaches of another planetary system or in the icy molecular clouds that predate star formation. This is not a technosignature interpretation. This is verified chemical evidence that this object came from a fundamentally different environment than anything we have ever sampled before. Then came the polarization measurements. 3I Atlas showed what scientists described as extreme negative polarization, meaning the way it scattered and reflected light was unlike any known comet ever observed. Not slightly unlike, not marginally unusual, unprecedented, no solar system comet, not even the previous interstellar visitor. 2I Borisov showed anything close to this polarization signature. Loeb noted this could relate to unresolved geometry, meaning the object might have a physical structure at scales we cannot resolve with current telescopes, an unusual shape, an unusual surface geometry, something that interacts with light in a way that natural, roughly spherical, or irregularly shaped icy bodies simply do not. There was also the matter of the object's closest approach to Jupiter. On March 16, 2026, 3i Atlas came within 53.6 million kilometers of Jupiter. And Jupiter's Hill radius, the distance at which Jupiter's gravity dominates over the Sun's, is approximately 53.5 million kilometers. The match between these two numbers, the closest approach distance and Jupiter's Hill radius, is precise, to within 0.1 million kilometers, or a precision of about 1 part in 500. Loeb calculated the probability of a random object following this specific trajectory and arriving at this specific distance from Jupiter by pure chance, approximately 0.004%. For context, that is a probability of 4 in 100,000. This level of precision is what makes the trajectory so troubling to explain as pure coincidence, because it means 3i Atlas grazed exactly the edge of the zone where a slow-moving object could be captured by Jupiter's gravity and remain in the Jovian system without ever actually being captured itself, as its velocity relative to Jupiter was far too high. Loeb publicly raised the question, what if 3i Atlas used its non-gravitational acceleration, its jet system, to fine-tune this approach? What if it approached Jupiter's Hill radius not by accident but by design, and in doing so, potentially released smaller objects that could remain in the Jovian system at minimal fuel cost? The best. Orbital positions for releasing and retaining a small technological device around Jupiter would be the L1 and L2 Lagrange points, which sit precisely at the edge of Jupiter's Hill radius. That edge is exactly where 3i Atlas grazed on March 16th. This hypothesis is, of course, extraordinary, and extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence. Scientists have noted, correctly, that each individual anomaly has a natural explanation when considered in isolation. The trajectory could be coincidence. The non-gravitational acceleration is cometary. The nickel chemistry could reflect an unusual formation environment. The polarization could arise from unusual dust grain properties. These are all valid, scientifically grounded responses. But, as Loeb himself put it, the question is not whether each anomaly has a natural explanation individually. The question is whether all 22 anomalies occurring simultaneously in a single object can be explained naturally together, and that is a much harder case to make. Now, let us talk about the 9 mysterious detections, because this is the element of the story that the viral title of this video points toward, and it deserves to be told completely and honestly. As 3i Atlas made its closest approach to Earth on December 19, 2025, passing at a distance of approximately 269 million kilometers, a team of scientists used the Green Bank telescope, one of the most powerful radio telescopes in the world, to scan the object for technosignatures. They were specifically listening for artificial radio signals, the kind of signals that would indicate a technological source rather than a natural one. The telescope scanned across 4 bands of the radio spectrum. In the initial analysis, the search returned 470,000 potentially artificial signals. That sounds enormous, but this is standard in radio astronomy. Almost everything the telescope detects is some form of interference, natural emission, or Earth-based noise, and the team had sophisticated filters to eliminate false positives. After applying those filters, they were left with 9 events, 9 signals that passed their screening criteria, 9 detections that could not immediately be explained away. The team analyzed those 9 events carefully, and their conclusion, published in early January 2026, was that all 9 of them could be attributed to known radio transmitters here on Earth, human-made interference that had leaked into the telescope's field of view. As one of the researchers, Jacobson Bell, stated directly, "We did find 9 events, which is our term for signals that pass certain filters in our search strategy, but on closer inspection, we could readily attribute all 9 of them to known radio transmitters here on Earth." The conclusion was clear: no credible artificial radio signals from 3i Atlas. 2 other research groups conducting independent technosignature searches at different radio frequencies also found nothing. The Space.com headline from January 6, 2026 read, "Interstellar Comet 3i Atlas isn't an alien spacecraft. Astronomers confirm." That is the honest, complete account of the 9 signals. They were found, they were examined, and they were explained. This is how science is supposed to work. But, and this is the critical point that the scientific community itself has been careful not to dismiss, the absence of radio signals does not resolve the 22 documented anomalies. Radio silence does not prove natural origin any more than the presence of signals would have proven artificial origin. The Voyager probes that humanity launched decades ago have now left our solar system, and if an alien civilization detected them, those probes would look like non-transmitting rocks to any telescope looking for radio signals. because Voyager's transmitters would be too weak to detect at interstellar distances. A genuinely advanced technological object might not transmit in the radio spectrum at all. The absence of signals is evidence, but it is not conclusive evidence. This is why the broader community's published position is nuanced. A peer-reviewed paper published alongside the technosignature search stated precisely, there is currently no evidence to suggest that interstellar objects are anything other than natural astrophysical objects. However, given the small number of such objects known, only 3 to date, and the plausibility of interstellar probes as a technosignature, thorough study is warranted. That is the official, peer-reviewed scientific position. Not dismissal, warranted thorough study. And meanwhile, the chemical data kept arriving, and it kept being strange. In February 2026, a research team published findings indicating that for millions of years, 3I Atlas drifted between the stars before entering our solar system. The deuterium content in its water suggests it formed in a cold, distant molecular cloud, a birthplace potentially older than our solar system itself. This object could be a fossil of planetary formation from a time and place so remote that we have no other samples to compare it to. The ALMA researchers were direct about this in their published language. Each interstellar comet brings a little bit of its history, its fossils, from elsewhere. We don't know exactly where, but with instruments like ALMA, we can begin to understand the conditions of that place and compare them to our own. The James Webb Space Telescope made observations of 3I Atlas using its near-infrared spectrograph instrument, producing a chemical fingerprint of the object in unprecedented detail. NASA's SphereX mission turned its infrared instruments on the comet in December 2025, measuring production rates of volatile molecules, including water. NASA's MAVEN spacecraft captured images of the coma, the gas envelope around the nucleus, from Mars orbit in October 2025 as 3I Atlas passed within approximately 29 million kilometers of the red planet, close enough for ESA's Mars Express and ExoMars Trace Gas Orbiter to make direct observations. NASA's Psyche mission, traveling between Earth and Mars for its planned journey to a metal-rich asteroid, observed 3I Atlas over 8 hours on September 8th and 9th, 2025, from a distance of roughly 53 million kilometers. In November 2025, X-ray telescopes XR-ISM and XMM Newton made a discovery that was, in its own way, as significant as anything detected before: a diffuse X-ray glow surrounding the nucleus of 3I Atlas. This made it the first interstellar comet ever observed in X-ray light. The X-ray glow likely results from interactions between the solar wind and the comet's outgassing, but the nature of that glow, its distribution and intensity, added yet another data point to the growing profile of an object that seemed determined to be different from everything astronomers had seen before. The Subaru telescope observed 3I Atlas on January 7, 2026, just after its closest approach to the Sun, studying the light from the comet's coma to examine its interior chemistry. The Subaru team, publishing in the Astrophysical Journal, found that the ratio of carbon dioxide to water was significantly lower than previous space telescope observations had suggested, meaning the interior of 3I Atlas has a different composition from its outer layers, which have been battered by cosmic radiation for what may be billions of years. The outer surface of this object is an ancient radiation-processed rind. What is inside is something else, something that had been sealed off from the universe for an incomprehensibly long time. In late December 2025, the Hubble Space Telescope captured images that revealed a striking structural feature near the nucleus of 3I Atlas when image processing filters were applied. A symmetric arrangement of a sunward anti-tail plus 3 equally spaced jets was apparent in the processed images. 3 jets, separated at equal angular distances, arranged symmetrically around the nucleus of the comet. Loeb noted this in his published anomaly list. Natural jets from cometary activity are driven by heat, and they appear where ice happens to be located on the surface relative to the Sun. Equal angular spacing of 3 jets is not what you would expect from a random natural distribution of volatile material. ESA's Jupiter Icy Moons Explorer, JUICE, had what agency scientists described as the best view of 3I Atlas during its most active state in November 2025, because JUICE was positioned closer to the Sun than Earth at the time, using its main antenna as a heat shield and transmitting at reduced data rates through a smaller antenna. The full observation data from JUICE did not reach Earth until February 2026. When it did, instrument teams began the laborious process of analysis. A first glimpse from the science camera confirmed a clear tail and complex structure in the coma. Full analysis of the JUICE dataset is ongoing. And there is one more anomaly on Loeb's list that is different in character from the physical and chemical observations, one that connects to something from the past that humanity has never fully explained. In 1977, a radio telescope at Ohio State University detected a signal so unusual that a researcher wrote the word "wow" next to the data. Printout. The WOW signal, as it became known, was a narrowband radio emission detected for approximately 72 seconds from the direction of the constellation Sagittarius. It was never repeated, never explained, and remains the most anomalous radio signal detection in the history of SETI, the search for extraterrestrial intelligence, to this day. Loeb calculated that the inbound direction of 3I/Atlas aligns within 9 degrees of the source direction of the 1977 WOW signal. The probability of a random alignment this close is approximately 0.6%. Loeb is careful about this one. He describes it as a coincidence, not a conclusion. But it is a coincidence that, once you know about it, is difficult to simply set down and walk away from. So where does all of this leave us? What is the honest, grounded, scientifically defensible summary of what 3I/Atlas is and what it means? Here's what we know with certainty, documented and confirmed by peer-reviewed science. 3I/Atlas is the third confirmed interstellar object ever detected passing through our solar system. It originated from outside our solar system, formed in conditions far colder and more extreme than the environment that created our own planets, moons, and comets. It contains water with a deuterium concentration at least 30 times higher than anything in our solar system. It has a chemical composition, particularly its nickel-to-iron ratio, that differs from every known solar system comet in a way that has no fully accepted explanation. It exhibited a real, physical sunward jet structure unlike anything observed in any other known comet. It displayed extreme negative polarization unprecedented in any documented comet. It followed a trajectory through our solar system that brought it close to Venus, Mars, and Jupiter in sequence, within 5 degrees of the ecliptic plane, with a probability of less than 0.5% by chance. It grazed Jupiter's Hill radius, the gravitational boundary of Jupiter's dominance, with a precision of 1 part in 500. It showed non-gravitational acceleration from a jet system that was collimated and directional in ways that differ from standard cometary outgassing. It was scanned for radio signals at its closest approach to Earth, and 9 signals were found and subsequently identified as Earth-based interference. It has now exited our solar system and is heading back into the interstellar void, fading from every telescope currently tracking it. What does the scientific community conclude? The mainstream position, held by the majority of astronomers and planetary scientists, is that 3I/Atlas is a natural object, a comet formed around another star, shaped by a cold and alien environment we have not previously sampled, with unusual properties that reflect its unusual origin. This is the most parsimonious explanation. It does not require us to invoke anything beyond known physics and chemistry, but a smaller, credentialed, and formally published group of scientists, led publicly by Loeb, but not limited to him, argues that the simultaneous occurrence of 22 anomalies in a single object warrants a different classification of seriousness than any one anomaly alone would justify. These researchers do not claim certainty. Loeb himself has stated repeatedly in published work that the natural cometary explanation remains the most likely. What they argue is that the threshold for dismissing the technological hypothesis without rigorous examination is not met by the data we have. The object is now gone. It passed through our solar system in under a year, detected July 2025, passed perihelion in October and November 2025, passed Earth closest approach in December 2025, past Jupiter in March 2026, and now outbound beyond Jupiter's orbit, fading, unreachable, carrying its secrets back into the dark between the stars. The opportunity to deploy a close-range spacecraft, something that might have given us a photograph of the nucleus, a direct sample of the material, a close measurement of the jet geometry, has passed. The window closed before humanity could act on it. The next interstellar object will come. We do not know when. We do not know from which direction. We do not know whether it will be as large, as strange, as anomalous, or as scientifically valuable as 3I/Atlas. What we do know is that we detected this one with less than 6 months before perihelion, that the telescopes and spacecraft we had in position were not designed or positioned for close-range interception, and that by the time the scientific debate about what it might be had reached a serious level of public attention, the departure trajectory was already locked in. ESA has a mission called Comet Interceptor in Development, a spacecraft designed specifically to be launched on short notice and intercept an incoming comet or interstellar object before it can escape the inner solar system. That mission is the direct response to the lesson of 3I/Atlas. The lesson being, the next time something like this enters our solar system, we need to be ready to go to it, not just watch it from a distance through telescopes. Go to it. Get close enough to see what it actually is, because 22 anomalies recorded from hundreds of millions of kilometers away is a scientific record. But a photograph from 20 kilometers away is an answer. And somewhere out there in the interstellar dark, between the stars of the Milky Way, there are more of them, more objects following paths through the void between stellar systems, Objects that may have been traveling for millions of years or billions through a cold and silent medium between the points of light we see in the night sky. Objects shaped by environments we have never visited, carrying chemistries we have never sampled, possibly following trajectories that are not entirely random. Whether 3I's Atlas was a comet of extraordinary natural origin, a relic fossil of planetary formation around a long dead star, or something that strains the boundary of natural explanation, we cannot say for certain. The data is what it is. 22 anomalies, 9 radio events, 30 times the deuterium of anything in our solar system. A sunward jet, unlike anything in a century of cometary science. A trajectory past 4 planets, with a probability of coincidence measured in fractions of a percent. An approach to Jupiter's gravitational boundary precise to 1 part in 500. Avi Loeb said it directly in his final published reflection as 3I Atlas faded from view in March 2026. By recognizing anomalies, we can learn something new. By ignoring them, we remain ignorant. The universe just sent something through our neighborhood. It passed close enough for our best telescopes to touch it with light and radio waves and infrared. It revealed itself to be unlike anything we have cataloged before, and then it left. The real question is not what 3I Atlas was. The real question is, what will we do when the next one arrives?